Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions, the worlds of sports, pop culture, social media. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on Twitter I go as PD Beats. And my guest this morning, afternoon, whatever you want to call it, is professional wrestler. We're with the King of Bros. We're with Matt Riddle. Matt, welcome to Popternative, man.
What up, bro? Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's we've been talking about this for a while, but you know, the holidays, it's a great time to finally get these done.
People coming together during the holidays, it's a great thing. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Right off the bat, we like for people that know Matt Riddle, there was a life of Matt Riddle before professional wrestling with MMA, the UFC. What made you want to go into that field, that fighting, that brawling, that wrestling, and MMA? Like, when did that all start off?
You know, when I was a kid, there's only two things I watched, and my parents hated it, but it's what I fell in love with, and it was mixed martial arts and professional wrestling. Pro wrestling being my favorite because it was more of a spectacle and entertaining, but MMA kind of being like the grittier, harder side of it, like the underground side of pro wrestling in a way at the time. Now MMA is bigger and whatever. But what happened with me is I was wrestled in high school, did extremely well, state national champion, went to college and I was wrestling. And I really wanted to make that transition to pro wrestling after college, but I just felt like I was too small. I felt like everybody at the time, like other than like Rey Mysterio, maybe Shawn Michaels or X-Pac, like everybody was like seemed like they were 6'6", and even if they were shorter, they were like 300 plus pounds of muscle. And I didn't see a future for myself in professional wrestling. I just, and at the time I was in college, The Ultimate Fighter debuted. Blew up, the UFC blew up, and I knew for a fact there'd be a spot for me because there's weight classes and etc. And I was a great wrestler, great jiu-jitsu, great at all that. So that's what it really was. I just looked at my options, weighed them out, and I was like, there's definitely a spot for me in MMA, plus I've been training my whole life towards this, So that's how I ended up in mixed martial arts. Did that, did the Ultimate Fighter, all that jazz,
No, absolutely.
Water under the bridge.
No, for sure. I mean, it's like we've had a lot of professional wrestlers on the show, and they talk about how from the moment they watch wrestling, like Rob Van Dam has been on my show, and he says just watching it right away, it's like you want to do that. Now your situation obviously is different because you went from MMA, like a lot of wrestlers, but. Talk about that transition. Like, was that a hard transition? Was it easier than you thought? You're going from MMA, different rules. Now you're going to kind of more the professional wrestling, and both could be seen as entertainment. But a big part of wrestling is the like in the ring and outside the ring as well. So was that a hard transition for the King of Bros, Matt Riddle?
It was. That's a yes and no answer. It was hard to an extent. Like when I came from the world of mixed martial arts, MMA is more so about fighting. But to be honest, the most successful fighters in MMA are guys like Conor McGregor and the Diaz brothers and stuff who do kind of promote themselves outside of fights and kind of stir the pot. So even in MMA, it's all the same in that, in that fact. But I forgot what the question was. I'm sorry.
No, I just say was the hard transition.
The hardest thing for me was, and I get this a lot, was selling.
Yeah.
Like selling a punch, selling a hit, selling a strike, selling a throw. I come from a world where you get slammed on your head, and the only time you sell is like when you're actually knocked unconscious. So that was a little difficult. And then, like you said, being a character, being entertaining, that was kind of a tricky one for me because the thing is, like, honestly, I'm kind of entertaining as is, just as Matt Riddle. And like when I talk to people, we all have a lot of fun, whatever. So when I got into pro wrestling, as much like everybody else, they think they have to be a character. They have to be somebody else. So when I first got into it, I was like, I was thinking of all these characters like Classy Trash, like a guy with a mullet or this or that, And people are like, oh, that's good, but it's not great. This is good, but it's not great. And then I was like, maybe I should just play myself. I mean, Grant, I already got the background. I'm a UFC fighter. I got kicked out for some garbage, and now like I'm doing pro wrestling. And I've noticed every time I'm myself and I'm having fun, people seem to like me and like everything I'm doing. So that's all I did. I just started being myself, being Matt Riddle in the wrestling ring, outside the wrestling ring, which I was already doing, and that's it. It made my life extremely easy. But at first, it was difficult because I didn't understand what people wanted from me. I didn't know if I was supposed to be walking out there with like a lollipop or dick flipping people or, it's 2017. I didn't know what the wrestling world wanted from me, But in all actuality, what wrestling fans want from most wrestlers is some realisticness, some believability, something they can kind of connect with. Even if it's a pansexual like Jack Sexsmith, it doesn't matter. They want something they can grab onto, lock onto, bite their teeth in, and connect with. And it's hard to connect with a Viking from the 18th and 17th century because they don't fucking exist. The king of bros is real and exists. And if you notice, Kevin Steen, he's real and exists. Sami Zayn's real. If you notice the top stars, Finn Balor's a real person. Right. Yeah, he dresses up as a demon, but that's just when he feels like a demon, like with some people you have emotions and some days you feel like a demon. So it all makes sense. All these people that are over are playing themselves. So that was the hardest part, but also the easiest at the end of the day.
I mentioned before we started recording, your style is unbelievable because you've been able to, and a lot of people have said that you're one of the most improved wrestlers like over the last couple of years, one of the biggest, I think the best indie wrestler on the planet right now. But I think is it safe to say that because you do so many cool things and the reactions that people get from you in the ring, is that the one thing you love the most about being a professional wrestler? The reaction you get from the crowd? Is it safe to say? Because the reactions are like, wow, this guy is crazy.
Reactions are good. Even when I fought, you fight for reactions. You just don't granted, wins are wins, but the whole part of being in a fight in front of 50,000 people or millions at home is you're trying to get that bar in Ireland or wherever going nuts when you're fighting. You're trying to get the people in the crowd on their feet, throwing drinks and going nuts. For me, that's what it was for me. It's always, and I think that was always the pro wrestler in me. I always wanted it to be a spectacle, a show. I wanted my fights to always be entertaining. I wanted to win. I wanted to be successful. But at the end of the day, and that's why I got a couple fight of the nights and stuff, at the end of the day, I always went with excitement. I always wanted to give the fans some blood and action.
But give something they haven't seen either, right?
Yeah, exactly. And especially in pro wrestling, I noticed this, a lot of wrestlers, they'll do cool moves, but they don't give the moves time to register, things like that. So in my wrestling, I give the people what they want, in my opinion. I give them what I would want.
Yeah.
When I see wrestlers, the one thing I hate soft strikes. I hate when people hit somebody and it was bad. It was not touching. All my stuff, if you ever see me live, lands. If you hear it, it lands. It makes contact. My slams are real. I slam people for real. I German suplex people. They don't jump most of the time. I just take them. I don't ask them permission. I just do it. And I think these things incorporate into why people react the way. Because I've seen a million German suplexes and nobody cares. But for some reason, I shoot in against somebody's will, suplex them on their head and look at the crowd like this, and all of a sudden they're on their feet clapping.
Oh, there's a lot of wrestlers, and it's not a lot. It's a small list of, and you're up there, Cesaro's up there, of these wrestlers that, when you watch a match and you're like, oh man, how did he do that? And it's not necessarily a really flashy move, but like you said, it's a German suplex that was unbelievably executed. But you have one, they say that, you know what I mean? The big guys in the WWE, I'll even say like Roman Reigns, he does some cool stuff, and I'm like, wow, that was really wicked that he did that.
He does. He's got a sweet spear. He's got a good Superman punch.
But
he
guys,
yells pretty good. He's got charisma.
That's one time. You and Cesaro, it's 5-6 times in a year of different matches. It's wow, how did he do that? You know what I'm saying? It's just it's one of those things where, and I think it's your style. It's a little bit of an unorthodox style. And one could argue that guys like Cesaro, their style coming into the WWE was a lot different. The way he was doing those uppercuts.
I agree. And I think that's a big thing. Everybody's taught, hey, do this forearm, do this strike, do this, do that. If everybody looks the same, doing all the same moves, why would people watch us? The
Exactly.
biggest thing, just like I said, the hardest thing for me to understand was being myself and being a character, which I already am.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with striking. Why are you trying to take your body and make yourself do something in a certain motion that you're awkward at? When you can still throw a forearm, throw it like you would throw a forearm. As long as it's safe and makes good contact, that's all that matters. Who cares how it gets there and how it finishes? As long as everybody's safe and it's how your body works, that's what's going to work best. I try to tell people that all the time, like even with kicks to the face or an elbow there or a knee there, they're like, wow, your stuff looks so good. How do you do it? I'm like, I just do what my body feels is right. It was the same thing in MMA. You can't do every jiu-jitsu move you learn. You do the ones that work for your body and work in your situations. And it's the same thing in pro wrestling, except for in wrestling, we work together and people are allowed to do things that don't look so good and don't work for them because we allow it to happen. And I think that's a huge problem. I think people just need to, when people are being coached, they have to realize like there's right and wrong answers, of course, but it's also professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So how many wrong answers are there?
No, exactly.
If a guy can flip you with his penis, how are you telling me I can't chop or forearm somebody a certain way? That doesn't make sense, and that person's wrong. There's no wrong
that
answers
thing you
in
just
wrestling.
mentioned, that doesn't happen as much, right? I mean, like that was one time. Like, I mean, yeah, that. But like the thing is, it's like, and I think, do you think that's a good point though? Do you think people are still afraid to be as edgy as they can in professional wrestling?
In 2017, yes. People are afraid to. Unfortunately, with wrestling, I wouldn't say just wrestling, I'd say with society everywhere. I think people are afraid to work certain styles. I think they're afraid to work certain ways. I think they're afraid to cut certain promos. Commentators can't even say certain things without losing their jobs sometimes. Stuff like that. And sometimes the decision was right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes the decision's a little rash. And sometimes the decision it's not even that it was rash or right. It was just that was like the punishment worthy of what just happened. Like should people be crucified for doing a certain wrestling move? Like should Jim Cornette say compare the Young Bucks to Nazis because they wrestle the way they do? I don't think so. They're entertaining people, and at the end of the day, our job is to make money, entertain people, and make people happy. Like that's our job. Make more fans. And that's what they're doing. So, you know what I'm saying.
No, I know. And then social media is a double-edged sword because so much of that stuff can get leaked right away. And it could be like thrown out of proportion.
And it can be taken out of context. I remember when I was still in the UFC a couple of years ago, I did an interview on a podcast for Tap Out Radio, just like this, except for I wasn't being filmed. And while I was doing it, my kids were a little younger at the time, and they were banging on the bedroom door. My wife was supposed to watch them and wasn't. And they're banging. And, of course, they were talking about my usage.
Yeah.
And I was like, you see this?
But like they probably knew it was like your kids. They were probably just trying to get good content.
Yeah, but like, and the thing is, the radio station didn't do anything wrong. It was just like they were pounding on the door, and I go, you know what? It's one of the reasons I smoke, so I don't beat my kids. And that's not why I smoke. I said it completely sarcastic. Everybody in the interview laughed. I laughed. It was funny. The very next day, New York Times, that was their headline: UFC fighter smokes marijuana so he doesn't beat children. And it's like, it was a joke that they took out of context and did that. So when it comes to social media or even wrestling, even promos, even work, like, somebody doing a dick flip at the wrong venue at the wrong time could cause problems legitimately, So you got to be careful. You still have to be edgy. You have to be right on the edge of the seat, but at the same time, you got to be somewhat conservative.
No,
so you
absolutely.
don't ruffle feathers.
No, for sure. Another thing too is I mentioned your style, the acrobatic style, but also the hard-hitting style as well. The one thing I love about professional wrestling is these big guys, these really big guys like Moose, Donovan Dijak. Maybe not Braun Strowman because he's just like that big kind of bruiser, but a lot of the big guys are very athletic. They're doing crazy things we've never seen before.
Keith Lee.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable to see. So I want, like, from your perspective, what do you think about that? Do you think it kind of takes away from, guys like you that are already doing that? Are they trying to compete with you guys? Like, what do you think about these big guys doing these big moves?
Big guys doing moves, I'll be honest. It's nothing against them. The reason why big guys are supposed to wrestle like big guys and little guys wrestle like little guys is wear and tear on your body. Little guys can take it a little more, big guys can't. So that's why we're supposed to wrestle a certain way. When big guys wrestle like lightweights, I don't mind. It's exciting. It makes my job easier because usually the guys like Keith Lee and stuff that are willing to flip themselves around are also willing to get slammed around and bumped around as well. Mm-hmm. So, and wrestling a big guy's definitely going to slam you and bump you around. So it's nice when they're also willing to take a little bit of punishment too, because it's a give and take, I believe, in pro wrestling, But I personally like it, I think for a while, a lot of big guys were stereotyped in a position of wrestling where it's like, you can't do that. You're a big guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, why are you sounding like that? You're a big guy, And some of those things need to stay true. Like if you're 7 foot tall, 400, 500 pounds, and I'm 150 pounds and I forearm you, you shouldn't drop to a knee.
No, yeah.
But at the same time, if you're Keith Lee at 330 pounds and you can hit a step up Rana and a flip dive to the floor, shit, why not, bro? Yeah. In real life, that would kill somebody. If Keith Lee jumped on you like that, awesome, So if you're a bigger guy and you want to work that style, that's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. Realize though, wear and tear, you're not gonna be able to do it as long as the little guys. It's gonna do a lot more damage to your body, and you're gonna pay for it in the long run. That's also the reason why I work the style I do. I do some high flying, some jumping, some springboards there and there. But if you notice, a lot of the times I probably only bump about 4 times, 5 times a match.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So like I pick my moments to be exciting, but at the same time, unlike some wrestlers, I don't have to be exciting every second of the match because I also need those moments. Just like a good story, I need to go up and down, have my climax and then resolution, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing in a wrestling match. If I go up, the crowd's never going to have a chance to really enjoy it. They're going to be on the edge of their seats, and then I also ruin the match for the next person or the whole show,
Oh, absolutely.
Always have up and downs.
Oh, it's a cool perspective. We'll wrap up. What's next for Matt Riddle in 2018?
Well, 2018 is going to be a crazy year. I didn't make it to Japan this year due to some unfortunate politics at the end. But 2018, I'm not going to let that shit stop me. I'm getting to Japan 2018. I don't care where it is, DDT Pro, wherever, Noah, New Japan. I'm going to make it to Japan in 2018. And the other big one for 2018 is I've won the WWN title, the Progress Atlas title. I've won a lot of titles. PWG tag titles of Jeff Cobb, killing it. But the one title I think I want to win right now, and it has a lot of prestige, a lot of good people have held it, like Chris Hero and others, and that's the Evolve title. It's the one title that I haven't gotten yet. It's eluded me, and that's it. I think I want the Evolve title, and I think by the end of the 2018, I'll probably win a lot of other titles as well, just like I did in 2017. Mm-hmm. But Evolve title in Japan, 2018. That's what's going to happen.
Great. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Where can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at Super King of Bros.
Love that handle.
You can follow me, right? It's my King of Bros with Dragon Ball Z, so I'm Super King of Bros.
Of course.
And then on Instagram, Riddle Bro at Instagram, and then Facebook is just Matthew Riddle. Look me up, message me. If you guys need merch, kingofbros.com. I keep it simple. I don't do pro wrestling tees. I'm a self-made man. I don't need help from other businesses. I help myself.
Perfect. Well, all the best in 2018, and have a happy holidays. Merry Christmas, man.
Happy holidays to you, bro. Enjoy.
Perfect. Well, this has been Popternative. Until next time, you can catch previous episodes of Popternative on our YouTube page on popternative.com. You can also subscribe on iTunes. And until next time, this is the King of Bros and Petey Beat signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.